SWAT team flashbangs. Then 2 men taken away in handcuffs in a Raleigh neighborhood.
I was in the shower and then I heard 2 bangs.
All caught on WRAL's cameras. This following 12 shootings into cars and homes over 4 days, injuring 1 woman.
A little nervous, driving through that area again, knowing that a bullet hit my car the last time.
WRAL has live team coverage looking into who they are and why the search for who's responsible might not be over. Breaking news starts now at 7. 2 people detained in Raleigh after 12 shootings in 4 days. The investigation has taken us from a shooting scene near NC State campus to a home on Kent Road. Thank you for joining us at 7 o'clock. I'm Ashley Rowe.
And I'm Dan Haggerty. It's been a busy, at times chaotic day, you could say. We want to unpack it all for you here tonight. We want to start with this. Sky 5 flying over that scene when one of the 2 people who were in that home were detained.
SWAT teams surround the home there on Kent Road. Flashbangs went off, and a man came out of the home in handcuffs. Police believe this man is connected somehow to the 12 shootings in and around I-40 this week. 1 woman was shot in the leg. Multiple homes and cars were hit. Nobody killed, amazingly, or seriously injured. Still, that 1 person did have an injury to her leg. But investigators say the shootings are all connected.
The WRAL News team is on top of it for you tonight. Carly Haynes had some pretty tough questions for Raleigh's police chief today. Aaron Thomas also digging into who these persons of interest are. We want to get started with Carly. Carly, we figured the 12 shootings might be connected, but we were surprised when police said that there was no imminent danger to the public prior to any of those people being detained.
And that's one of the questions that we wanted to ask Raleigh police earlier today during that news conference is how did they come to that decision? We're standing in the neighborhood right now where those 2 people were detained. There are still police officers here on scene. They say this investigation led them to this house, and those 2 people who were detained were in that home at the time, though police are still working to find out what their relationship is to one another. SWAT teams used flashbangs to detain 2 people off Kenford Court, just hours after 2 shots fired incidents played out off Trailwood Drive, which runs over I-40. You can see how close this bullet came to hitting a driver just before 9 a.m. Then the search ramped up for hours. We asked Raleigh police how they decided the public was safe. Earlier today, RPD told us that the incident around NC State was no credible threat to the public. How were you able to come to that decision knowing there was a suspect that was still out there and we had no confirmation at that point that those incidents were related?
So we made a decision based on the information that we had at the time and then continue to work those investigations as much as we can.
A string of shots fired incidents playing out over 4 days, 12 incidents in all, with 8 vehicles hit and 4 homes.
We were all on edge, just like hearing about the shots coming off the road.
Neighbor Shane Full heard the SWAT event play out.
So I was in the shower and then I heard 2 bangs and I thought it was my dryer.
His video shows those 2 men taken into custody after 4 long days of shattered glass and shattered safety, with drivers surprised by bullets on I-40.
And I heard a big explosion and glass came inside on the right side. I had no idea what happened.
Moments of terror that stretched for days, now replaced with relief.
Now I know that my girlfriend can go for runs and I don't have to worry about it. Or I can go walk around the neighborhood and not have to worry about somebody shooting at me.
And police aren't ruling out that more people could be detained as this investigation unfolds. They're offering up a $10,000 reward for anybody who has any information.
My goodness, what a series of events. Carly, thank you.
Now let's send it to WRAL's Aaron Thomas, who is at the magistrate judge's office working to get more information on the 2 people who were detained. Aaron, what have you managed to learn so far?
So, Ashley, here's the deal. We have spent the past few hours reaching out to several agencies, trying to firm up the names and the people likely connected to this case. We're still waiting to find all that stuff out. We've been here at the magistrate's office for more than 2 hours now. We haven't seen anyone transported at this office, and we haven't seen any indication that the 2 people who were detained today were brought here. Just keep in mind that these cases can take a while to play out. After speaking with a magistrate judge just a while ago, she was saying how questioning by these detectives could take several hours. Then questioning could go from being an interview, then it can go into interrogation if they believe that there is a likely connection following these spate of shootings. But there's several questions that remain tonight, including what is the motive of the two people that were taken into custody? Are both of them involved, or one of them involved, or is no one involved? Of course, we're going to continue to ask these questions, watch this case play out, and of course on our late news we're going to be speaking with a private investigator to kind of get into minds of these alleged shooters. Back to you.
All right, Aaron. WRAL's Chelsea Donovan covered the story all day long, from the shootings on Trailwood Drive to the neighborhood where officers detained a person of interest.
And you have to remember, all of this unfolded live on our air during our 4 o'clock newscast. Chelsea at that time had to stay in her car. She got out afterward, after the police moved in, spoke to some neighbors there. We want to play back a little bit of that coverage, though, as it happened this afternoon.
We can say that we're in a neighborhood near where that shooting happened earlier this morning. But we're in a very active scene here in this neighborhood, and we want to show you kind of what's unfolding here. They do have the neighborhood completely blocked off for safety. I'm relying on my producers to give me the most accurate information. I'm looking from the ground, they're looking from above, and it appears that they do have a suspect that is handcuffed.
So I was in the shower, and then I heard 2 bangs, and I thought it was my dryer. Then I came out, put some clothes on, and I looked outside, and I got there just in time to see them taking him outside of the house.
Just to recap there, we could see a taller white gentleman in khaki shorts and a black shirt with white tennis shoes. You said you've got another suspect here. Okay, this is perfect. Let's just zoom in here, Shane. Yep. All right, now we've got another suspect here. Looks like another taller white male, jeans and a white T-shirt. So he is right. There are dozens of people out here kind of trying to figure out what is going on in their neighborhood, what is going on in this cul-de-sac here on Kentford Court. You can still see the large SWAT truck there in the driveway of that home.
WRAL's Chelsea Donovan joining us now. Chelsea, quite the unusual string of events for you today.
You did talk to a bunch of neighbors out there, though. It didn't really seem like anyone seemed to know these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really quiet community off of 40 and Tryon Road, and they live kind of in a cul-de-sac area. And many of the people that we talked to said they didn't know the 2 people that were in this home on Kentford Court here in Raleigh. Really unassuming. Nobody knew their names or who they were. Many just capturing video and kind of zoom in and trying to figure out, who these people are, given the fact that they're neighbors and now are being questioned for a series of 12 shootings that have spanned across Southwest Raleigh.
When you were first live in that neighborhood around 4 o'clock today, you were inside a car. You couldn't say on TV where you were. Give us a sense of what was going on then and about being there as the SWAT was moving in and what they were telling you.
Yes, of course, we were at another location where one of the shootings happened. Then we came over here and we saw a series of unmarked cars, and that kind of signals to me that there could be a SWAT situation that was about to occur. And so traditionally, like we would on any crime scene, when we see something about to unfold, we would get out the tripod and get out the camera and get ready to shoot something. The minute we stepped outside of the car, Raleigh police said, you need to get in the car, get back in the car for your safety. This is a situation that's too dangerous. I texted with someone with public affairs and said, what's going on? Is it related to the other incidents we had been kind of following all day long? And they said, stay in the car, be safe. So we did something unconventional that we normally don't do, and we came to you live from the safety of our own vehicle, given the fact that we know that this was likely connected to these shootings. We did not want to put ourselves in danger. And you mentioned, why didn't we tell people where we were at that time? Well, we didn't know if anybody, a suspect or a person of interest at that time, had been detained. So we wanted to keep that information close to us and close to the vest, because we didn't want to tip a suspect off, or jeopardize a police investigation that was really unfolding right before our eyes.
It was quite the scene. Chelsea Donovan in Raleigh for us. Chelsea, thank you. Now, this whole case might sound like something that you have seen before. Maybe you remember 2003, a case of a highway sniper in Ohio, or the Beltline snipers in Washington, D.C. in 2002. After the break, we'll go in depth a bit for a moment. Talk about how those cases compare to what we saw this week in Raleigh.
Plus, a Fayetteville family says they received racist text messages telling them they were chosen to pick cotton. They weren't the only ones. What's behind these messages? Ahead. Kat?
And we could really use some rain. The new drought monitor came out today, and it shows that we're seeing more abnormally dry areas. I'll have a closer look at that in our next chance for rain coming up.
This is Brian Schrader with breaking news now here in the WRAL Live Center. A traffic alert in Apex. Take a look at this live camera. We have an overturned vehicle on US 1 southbound. This is right there at the NC 55 interchange. No reports of any injuries at this point, but I can tell you that we're seeing some big delays. The backups on US 1 southbound now begin all the way back around Tryon Road and 64, extend all the way down toward that 55 interchange. It looks like some traffic is getting by that crash scene. If you're planning to be out for the next little while, just want to keep that in mind on US 1 southbound in Apex.
You got it, Brian. Thank you. So this big news story today, this string of shootings into cars and homes around Raleigh, did it sound familiar at all to you? A dozen shootings in one area, no one knowing who pulled the trigger. Well, it reminded me and a lot of other people of something similar that happened in Columbus, Ohio in 2003. A man spent months firing at cars, 24 shootings. One person was killed. Commuters avoided major highways out of fear. Nearly a year later, the suspect was arrested. It took all of that time. Does that story ring any bells with any of you? Do you remember it? How about this one from 2002? The Beltway snipers in the Washington, D.C. area. Over the course of a few weeks, 10 people were shot and killed. 3 were critically injured. These people were just going about their day, mowing their lawn, pumping their gas. Some of them were out shopping. One of the victims was a 13-year-old boy at a school. Another was an FBI analyst. We heard from a reporter, a former reporter who was working in D.C. there on this story at the time, and she remembers the fear in the community, people wondering who could be next.
We didn't know when it would happen, where it would happen, how it would happen, if they were targeting particular people. So I would imagine what's going on there in North Carolina is the same thing. You don't know who they're targeting. Is it just random? Is it just from an overpass, from a side roadway, a frontage road? You just don't simply know. And so it's the unknown that's so terrifying.
We know how the stories are similar. Multiple shootings, all connected, the fear that people felt in the community here. But these stories are also very, very different in many ways. For one, nobody, fortunately, was killed here. One woman was shot in the leg. Several cars and homes have bullet holes in them, but no one has died. Another difference, the D.C. shootings were happening all over the area. The string of shootings here in Raleigh all took place on the map here. All those areas around I-40 and I-440 on the southwest side of the city. And this is a little crazy. Those D.C. snipers, they left behind some evidence. They left behind tarot cards at some of their shooting sites. We haven't seen anything cryptic, nothing like this, at least at this point in the investigation, that has been left behind anything here in Raleigh this week. Another important difference, those cases in Ohio and D.C. took weeks and weeks, even months to wrap up. Today in Raleigh, it took police less than a week to detain 2 people in this case. We don't know if either of these people were the ones behind the gun, the people or the person pulling the trigger. WRAL, of course, will remain focused on the details, so you and your family don't have to be afraid to drive somewhere or to take some crazy detour around the interstate. What do you want to know about this case here in Raleigh, though? We are curious. If there's anything, if there's something that you'd like the news to talk about when it comes to these shootings or anything else, please let me know. Send an email to dan@WRAL.com. Tell us what is on your mind, and we will go in depth.
A Fayetteville woman says she and her family members received the messages, these messages here, which say they've been selected to pick cotton. The FBI says they are aware of this. It's not clear who sent out the texts or why. As WRAL's Destiny Patterson reports, the texts went out around Election Day and are part of a national trend.
In an almost mass text fashion, a variation of these text messages buzzed on phones across America.
Our execution slaves will come to get you in a brown van. Be prepared to be searched down once you've entered the plantation. You are in Plantation A, Group A.
The messenger goes on to list the White House phone number and writes, Donald J. Trump approves this message. On the other side of these texts, a range of emotions.
Very scared, very nervous, confused.
This woman worries for her safety, so we aren't showing her face or sharing her name. She says many of her family members also received texts, including her underage daughter.
And it says something about her, she would be script searched, and hers, and that's very concerning.
Black Americans all over the country have received similar versions of these texts. Clemson University in South Carolina put out a statement saying the numbers have been determined to be associated with online spoofing sites. I tried calling the phone numbers associated with the texts.
Please leave a message after the tone.
The first time, it went to voicemail. The second time, someone picked up, hello, but hung up after a few seconds of silence. We reached out to Georgia resident Sam Finn, who wanted to share her story. She tells us she responded to the text.
And they responded back to me and called me a racial slur. So I was like, there's somebody that is actually behind the messages that is responding to people.
You feel almost like you have to be on higher alert now?
Definitely. I feel like I need to be a little bit more aware.
The women that I spoke to say that they've not reported those texts to police. The Attorney General's office tells me that they're working with federal and industry partners to investigate the source of those robo-texts. If you get one, they say that you should report it to their office and or local law enforcement. Destiny Patterson, WRAL News.
Here's something we saw today that struck us as a little bizarre. So the U.S. Drought Monitor reports pretty much all of North Carolina is abnormally dry, even the counties out west that were flooded by Helene 6 weeks ago. Since the storm, those areas have seen less than 1/10 of an inch of rain. Meteorologist Kat Campbell joining us now to kind of explain a little bit more. But boy, has it been feast or famine this year. We've either been getting too much rain or not enough.
And something else I found interesting that Mike Mays pointed out is every single state in the U.S. has at least part of the state under a drought right now. So we have a pretty filled out map nationally. Here in North Carolina, most of us are abnormally dry. That's the warning stage before you actually hit drought status. The northeastern part of the state and just a small sliver right here included in the moderate drought right now. But we haven't seen rain for pretty much over a month. The last significant rain we saw that was just under 1.5 inches was the end of September. Since then, we've just had some spotty showers here and there. But this has been a year of rainfall extremes. Of course, we've been between drought and flooding. And when you look at RDU's numbers for the season, meteorological fall alone, we're still running 4 inches above normal for rainfall. And for the year as a whole, it is the second wettest year to date, with us running about 10 inches above normal. So those are some pretty impressive numbers, given that for the past month and a half, we've seen little to no rainfall here. School day planner tomorrow, there is a 20% chance for rain south of the triangle, primarily in the morning. That would be it. We'll start out with clouds, perhaps a little bit of fog in the area. And then once we get to lunchtime, we start to see those clouds thinning. And with more sun during the afternoon, we should warm up into the upper 70s to lower 80s. 80 would tie the record high for tomorrow, so we could have another record out there tomorrow. It's been a very warm month as well. We're keeping an eye on a stalled front. It's just kind of falling apart here, but it'll drop to the south a bit overnight. And then behind it, we've got a round of some slightly cooler air for the weekend. But let's go long range, and I'll show you when we could actually see a cold front push through that makes it feel like November. This weekend, our lows and highs will still be above normal. We get that little bit of a dip in the jet stream, but it just kind of moves on out of here quickly. Once we get to Sunday and Monday, we've got another little feature that moves through, but it's not very prominent. Look at next week, though. By the end of next week, in that Thursday through Saturday timeframe, we could see more significant cooling with a funnel of air pushing in out of Canada, and that may finally cool us back down maybe into the 30s, maybe some frost out there by next weekend. Really too soon to tell the specifics, but models have been more consistent in showing this cool down for next weekend, so we're going to watch that. Tomorrow's record high, 80 degrees. That was set back in 1986. We could tie that tomorrow. Fayetteville, not guaranteed that you're going to set a record tomorrow, but it's still warm, 82 degrees. And once we get past tomorrow's 80, we may not see 80s again for a little while. Upper 60s Saturday. We dip down to 45 Sunday morning. Sunday, 70 degrees, mostly cloudy with a chance for rain Sunday night into Monday. That chance for rain will come on Veterans Day, primarily early on. And then once we get to next week, you can start to see temperatures backing off. These numbers right here on Thursday, those are much more aligned with normal for this time of year.
We'll take normal. Thank you, Kat.
It's been a pretty nutty day in the news. So let's talk about something positive for our one last thing, right? 600 elementary school students marching to honor veterans. That's in 2 minutes. One last thing this evening, a Veterans Day parade from a local elementary school class. We want to show you this at J. Glenn Edwards Elementary in Sanford. 600 students marched a half mile holding up banners and flags. Soldiers from Fort Liberty, the Sanford, VFW, and more all marched with the students.
I love this. Edwards Elementary is the only Purple Heart school in Lee County. This means that they are a military supportive school, and many military members send their kids there. Very nice to honor them in that way. Thanks for being with us here tonight on WRAL News.
Our next newscast is at 10 on Fox 50 and 11 on WRAL. Good night.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air channel 34 and Spectrum channel 1257.